online so far, so this is a really good turnout. Can I maybe ask, are Tony Webster or Justin Keevy on the line? If you are, could you put your videos on and your mics on and say how's it to us? Tony Webster or Justin Keevy's? Not on yet. Okay, guys, we're going to get going shortly. Zintle, I can see your video. Would you mind turning your video off? Zintle, I can see your video. Would you mind turning it off? And have we got Ryan on the line yet?
Hi, Justin. How are you?
Good, thanks. And you, Ryan?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Can we see you on video? Look at you, looking smart, hey?
Only up top, though, hey? Expert on top, but a bit more fun on the bottom.
So for those of you who don't know Ryan, he is iTOO's cyber expert, and he's certainly looking like an expert today on top. He was also the winner of our internal expert on top, fun at the bottom competition. So Ryan, what are you wearing on the bottom today?
A little bit more respectable than what it was for the competition. So just normal shorts. I've left the suspenders and the lingerie for this morning.
Great stuff. Ryan, I'm sure everyone is looking forward to hearing you a bit later. We have so far about 130 brokers signed on. So let's maybe give it 2 more minutes and then we can get going.
Awesome. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Ryan, while we're waiting for everyone to sign on, why don't you share some of your team's working from home experiences with some of the brokers? How's it going as an iTOO cyber team working from home?
Fantastic. I think what we've done from our side is we've had sort of 2 quick catch-ups, one in the morning, one in the afternoons. Everyone is up and running, so servicing brokers as you would normally. We've had a couple online training sessions. We're still servicing all the quotes and stuff, so we can access all the systems like we would normally. So really, really good. I've actually noticed that we probably have a slight increase in productivity, so saving some time in the traffic, not driving around as much and things. And I think also the guys are able to sit in a quiet corner, get some work done. As you can imagine, the iTOO office can sometimes be quite loud, but a lot of fun. And it's nice to have a little bit of quiet space to get some work done. So really, really good. I think it's probably going to have an impact on how we go about working going forward. So it's been great.
Great stuff. One of the commitments to all of our brokers that iTOO made to our brokers just before the lockdown was expert service always. And our commitment to our brokers is that no matter how the team at iTOO is working, we've guaranteed you expert service. So I hope that you are experiencing this. We've also had a lot of fun as a team. I think this has been a good opportunity for us to look at our business and to find different and creative ways of doing things. And I think iTOOsdays is just one example of these. So for those of you who don't know, iTOOsdays is every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and it's an online session for about 20 minutes where our brokers and our team can log in and listen to someone from iTOO, expert, talking about something. So if I can ask you all, we've got a lot of brokers still signing up, which is great news. Can I ask you all, please, to turn off your videos and mute your microphones, and then you will all be able to hear Ryan, our cyber expert, but we won't be able to hear you or your dogs or your vacuum cleaner in the background. So if you can all turn off your videos and mute your microphone, I think we'll get going in about another minute. We've got a few people still joining. So Ryan, let's get going in about another minute or so. Ryan, are we going to have any of your other cyber experts in your team, Candice or Luando? Are they all listening to you?
They, as far as I know, they are all online. So, I mean, I don't know, Candice, Luando, if you want to quickly unmute your microphone.
Good morning, everybody. Candice here.
Hello, Candy. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. How are you? How's everybody?
We are good. Very exciting to have our second official iTOOsday, and more people are still signing up to join in. So this is really good news. So today is a good day and a good day for our cyber team. Candice, while we are waiting and people are still signing up, why don't you take 1 minute to tell everyone
I'll
why
just
they should
have
buy
to.
cyber personal lines?
Perfect.
I can't hear, but I can see him.
Sorry, if
Whoever's
just before
talking,
Candice starts, Candice,
Justy?
I'm just going to ask everyone else other than Candice and Ryan if you could turn your microphones and videos off so we can hear you, or we can't hear you, but you'll be able to hear us. So Candice, talk nice and loudly, but maybe just before we start, why don't you tell everyone why they need personal line cyber insurance?
Perfect. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can all hear me nice and loud and clear. So we have been working on a personal line cyber insurance offering, which is the first offering available in the market that's a true cyber insurance offering available to individuals. And the reason we did this is because there's a massive spike in things like identity theft, things like theft of funds from bank accounts. So to give you an example, last year there was an 88% increase in theft of funds using internet banking and online banking. Identity theft, what we're seeing, the trend is that there's a massive spike in identity theft of children. So these are children aged 7 and younger. So there was 60% of identity theft that happened last year was to children aged 7 and younger. And unfortunately, the people who are committing identity theft against these children, it's their parents, it's somebody they're related to. So, you know, times are tough, Christmas is coming, a holiday, or some house repairs need to be done. So a parent will sign surety for their child and then spend those funds and not be able to pay those funds back. And then when the child reaches majority, they are blacklisted. Also things like cyberbullying, cyber extortion, sextortion, you know, Android mobile phones are the second most targeted in the world for banking malware. So there's a host of, sorry, that's my dog. There's a host of reasons why we've created this offering, but for a monthly premium of as low as 15 Rand a month, you could secure your bank account. You know, we have 3 different packages, Mega, Giga, and Terra. So our ultimate package, which would include your theft of funds, your identity theft, data restoration, cyberbullying, cyber extortion, network security, privacy, and data breach liability, that's going to cost you, your spouse, and a maximum of 3 children 125 Rand a month. So it really is a no-brainer. And just to quickly touch on cyberbullying, if I may, that's a really sexy offer. So included in that benefit is a trauma benefit, which is a upfront financial payment for your child to go and see a psychologist because they're a victim of cyberbullying, or for yourself to go see a psychologist because you're a victim of cyber stalking. If that psychologist determines your child needs to be moved to a new school, there would be an upfront payment for things like school fees, school uniforms, any books that need to be purchased because the child has to move to a new school. So it really is a super sexy offering. It's offered as a VAP onto third-party platforms such as Sims, Flexi, MMX. So if you're interested, please get in touch with anyone in the cyber team and we'd be happy to help you out with that.
Thank you so much, Candice. So to all of the brokers, iTOO has a really, really good personal line cyber offering. You should be buying it yourselves and for your teams, and you should be selling it to your clients. We will, after this webinar, we will send out some details as to how you can buy cyber personal lines. But the main attraction today is Ryan, and Ryan is going to be talking to us all on cyber during this COVID-19 lockdown and working from home. So I'm going to turn off my video. I will be on the messages and I'll come back at the end. But thank you very much, and over to you, Ryan. And really good to have all of our brokers with us today. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Justin. First off, welcome everybody this morning. It's great to have you all online. Just a couple sort of formalities that I've been asked to run through. For those of you who don't know, we are currently running a little bit of a fun exercise with the whole expert on top, fun on the bottom. So the theory behind that is while we're working from home, we can be experts on top and have a little bit of fun at the bottom while we're working differently. So the challenge has been put out to take images of your expert on top and then fun at the bottom outfits, Post those on social media, tag us on #expert on top, #fun on the bottom. The best image will win a prize. It's a voucher for 2,100 Rand. The entries for that competition will end on the 7th, and the winner will be announced on the 9th of April. Just to also then please ask everybody, and it seems like we do have it, but please keep your mics and muted and your video switched off throughout the presentation. What you can do as well, if you are struggling to hear a little bit and your signal drops slightly, is you can switch on the live captions. So if you look on your screen, you'll see there are 3 little dots. Click on that, which will give you more options, and that will have an option there to switch on live captions, and that will then have text at the bottom telling you basically what I'm saying. In order to get your CPD hours at the end of the session, please can you put your name and your surname on the chat box, and we'll use that as our sign-out procedure. This presentation does get you half a CPD point. For the smokers, please, you can smoke wherever you want to. The bathrooms, I have no idea. That's a you problem, so you can please sort that out yourself. What I'd also like to sort of highlight for us today, which is quite a big day, is if we look at the first, or this initial lockdown period, we are now over hump day. We are more than half the way through our lockdown period. So I hope everyone is coping well. And I hope that this presentation is also going to give you some insights and tips on things you can be aware of as we go through the next half. Also, I'd just like to highlight, I don't know if Tony Webster and Justin Keevy are online, but it is both of their birthdays today. So I'd like to wish them, as well as any of our other broker partners who are having their birthday today, a really wonderful birthday, and I hope you have many, many more. Without further ado, I think let's jump straight into the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen quickly. It sometimes takes a quick second. I hope that you are able to see my screen. And I'm going to jump straight into it. So the sort of main topic of the presentation today is cyber awareness during COVID-19. I'm not typically one who likes to go with the extreme and the shock tactics and the fear sort of ploys and such, but the harsh reality is that COVID-19 has become the single best event to launch any cyber attack from ever. And hackers are leveraging it big time. They are really hitting it hard and running all sorts of different campaigns. Reasons for this? Well, in the midst of the pandemic, we are working from new environments, using unfamiliar technology. So video conferencing technologies, dialing in with VPN, things which not all of us have had to work with in the past. We're exposed to new distractions. I was on a call with one of our reinsurance partners the other day, and midway through the call, his 6-year-old daughter came running into the room and sat on his lap because she'd heard that her dad was speaking to somebody from South Africa and had to ask me all about elephants. I loved it, but it's an example of new distractions we're dealing with and working with. A lot of us are concerned with what are the impacts of lockdown? What does it mean to me? Are we potentially going to have an extension? What does it mean to the economy? We're looking for information about the pandemic. What are the numbers today? How many deaths have there been? What do the trends look like globally, etc.? All of this, however, does mean that we are now not necessarily as vigilant as we normally would be due to all these different distractions and things we have going on, which is prime pickings for the hackers and the attackers out there. In the session this morning, I'm going to pick on 5 common vectors that the hackers are using. The first one that we'll chat about will be widely used platforms. I have got Zoom there. Zoom has been in the media quite a lot of late, but still has about 20% of the global market for online video conferencing, so it's very widely used and a big target for hackers. Malicious websites, phishing campaigns, fake internal communications, and then fake charities. One thing I would like to just touch on before we go on is that while this talk is very much geared towards COVID-19 and dealing with the pandemic, it's important to remember that a lot of what we're going to discuss today would also be relevant during other big sort of events. So think like the Olympics or any other main news sort of stories of the time. Those are big triggers, big targets for hackers to leverage to try and get people to fall to their different scams. So a lot of what we're going to chat about today is things that you can actually apply on a day-to-day basis going forwards when there is something big in the news and you're getting mails and things like that around it. So if we touch on Zoom for a quick second, in the wake of the pandemic kind of taking hold, we've seen a massive spike in the number of Zoom domain registrations. And what this is hackers registering different domains, so like zoom.com or zoom.ent or zoom.co.za, in order for them to use those URLs and those domains to go and then leverage their different attacks. So up until the middle of March, there'd been about 1,700 new domains registered with Zoom in the title. That number has ballooned subsequently. And in fact, 25% of those 1,700 was in that week 11 to 18 of May. Important to remember, it's not just Zoom that would have this happening. So you're going to have very similar things happening with Microsoft Teams, any of the other sort of platforms, etc. I had mentioned that Zoom has, unfortunately for Zoom, been in the news for all the wrong reasons. And this is just a subset of some of the headlines that have come out of late with some security concerns around Zoom. I don't want to spend time packing into those and things. Just a quick sort of word of advice is if you are using a video conferencing platform, probably worthwhile to look at using one that is using end-to-end encryption as opposed to just the transport encryption like Zoom is using. Where they've also come in for a lot of flack is they are apparently sharing a lot of data with Facebook and the like for marketing campaigns and to basically boost their own revenue. What are some of the risks if you do accidentally install an application which is not necessarily Zoom or not Teams or any of these other, or not Skype or any of these other platforms? Well, if you're using it for a meeting, it could be that somebody might be eavesdropping on that meeting. They could be getting valuable information which they can use for extortion, breach of private information, or espionage. Prime example of that, Candice and Lwando in my team were having a meeting the other day. Candice was incredibly disparaging about me. Lwando's recorded it, has shared that with me, and that's now going to come into effect when we have Candice's salary negotiation. Just as a quick heads up, Candice. Other things which could happen is they could be using the link simply to install malware in your device. That malware could range from ransomware or to a keylogger or any of these sorts of things to extort or get sort of unauthorized access to your information, your data. Also, a lot of this would be used for phishing campaigns to try and get access to your credentials. Couple tips to try and keep safe while using not just online meeting platforms, but a lot of these different platforms. Big one is keep up to date and apply the patches. So what you find is as the platform developers become aware of the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities in the applications, they then release patches to address those and to secure them and resolve them. So applying those patches, you're kind of at the forefront of ensuring that you are securing yourself as best as you possibly can. Should you not be applying them, you are then exposed to vulnerabilities which are widely known and can be used to exploit you. Use a private password for meetings where possible. So you will find that some of these platforms have the ability for you to set up a password for the meeting, which the participants would then need to enter. And that keeps unauthorized people from gaining access to that meeting as such. Manage participants' access and access rights. So you have the ability to, via your waiting rooms, etc., determine who is allowed into the meeting. You can also switch off, mute different participants and things. So use these tools to control who can do what in the meeting and who is actually in on your meeting. However, I think an important thing to remember, sorry, I've double-clicked there. An important thing to remember is assume that what happens on that platform does not necessarily stay on that platform. So even though you can ask individuals, don't record this or switch off your mics, whatever the case is, there's nothing to stop people from using cell phones, etc., to record the meeting, take notes, capture screenshots, etc. So be wary of what you say on these platforms and in these meetings. Don't assume that it is always going to be 100% secure and safe. And as I said on the previous slide, one of the big things which has come out of Zoom is they're not running end-to-end encryption. Try and use a platform that is doing that, as it does provide you with a little bit more protection. Next thing I want to touch on is malicious websites. I'm sure most of us have had a look at this map in the past couple of weeks. So this is John Hopkins' map on the sort of spread of the coronavirus. Quite scary. I took the screenshot last night and we were at just under 1.3 million confirmed cases with over 70,000 deaths at the moment. So some scary numbers. But what I want to show you is the next slide, which is a fake map. And if we sort of toggle between the two, you can see it's a pretty good fake of the site. Yes, the numbers are different. That's because they were captured at different times. But the numbers on the fake one were pretty much tracking with the legit site at the time. As I said, this is a screenshot from a legitimate fake website. Sounds strange, legitimate fake website. But it was a malicious website which was spotted on the internet. If we look at the URL, look pretty legitimate as well. So coronavirusmap.com. And this specific site was actually used to drop malware onto users or visitors' machines. That malware had the ability to trawl through your machine and actually pick up various pieces of sensitive information. In fact, it was advanced to the point where if you're saving passwords to websites or your card details, etc., in your browser, that piece of malware was able to go and retrieve that information and pass it back to the hackers. So be super careful on what you're clicking on and where you're going. I mentioned earlier we saw the massive spike in the registration of domain names relating to Zoom. Surprise, surprise, very similar story when we look at corona-related domain names. So there's been a massive spike in domain names registered with corona in the title, thousands since January, and we'll continue to see that happen. Like I said earlier as well, when we see things like the Olympics, the World Cup, etc., it's a similar trend, just not to the same scale as what we've noted with corona. There's been a study done by Checkpoint, who are one of the eminent security companies, and they've determined that coronavirus-related domains are 50% more likely to install malware on your system than domain names with other sorts of names in them. So be super careful when you're looking at or browsing to any sites which are sort of corona-related. The hackers, unfortunately, don't necessarily shower themselves in glory, so they will use any means to try and attack you. And it's got to the point where the World Health Organization has actually had to issue a warning to people to be wary of any sites or links or mails or anything they get relating to the World Health Organization. So unfortunately, they don't look at it and go, look, this is an important service in trying to cure or curb the pandemic. Let's sort of leave that alone and it's sort of sacred goods. They are using and leveraging that because they feel that it would give them more credibility. So this is the screenshot of the actual warning on the World Health Organization website. And that was spurred by quite a big phishing campaign run quite recently. So if you look at the new image that just popped up on the right, that is actually a screenshot of the mail that was used as part of that phishing campaign. We can see it's got the right sort of branding. The wording doesn't look too bad. And surprise, surprise, it has a link on it to go and get some more information about safety measures to protect yourself from the pandemic. That link was taking you to a website which looked like this, which was asking you to please verify your email address and provide your password. What made this website look quite legitimate is that they were actually hosting the World Health Organization website on their fake page. So what they did is and it's quite simple to do, would have taken a couple minutes, is they had built a frame on a web page. They were showing the World Health Organization page on that. So if you went and looked at that web page and the legitimate World Health Organization web page, they would look identical. When changes were made on World Health Organization, they would reflect here as well. The only sort of suspicious thing there was the pop-up, which they were obviously using to get access to your email address and your password, which they could then use to go and try and compromise your company. Once you had clicked on the verify button, they were actually then directing you back to the proper World Health Organization website. And I hope you can see it, but what was quite clever is they were actually using World Health Organization as part of their URL as well. The actual World Health Organization website is who.int, so who/index.php, not the legitimate one, but it looks pretty close to it. Just to show you a couple other sort of big phishing campaigns which have been pulled down of late. Here is one targeting Nike, another one using Cathay Pacific for refund forms. Really clever. A lot of people would have had their flights cancelled, so they'll be going to fill in forms to get refunds. You push this out to any and every email address you can imagine. You're likely to get a couple people who are supposed to be flying with Cathay Pacific are going to click on the link and try and claim their refund from there. And now you're getting their card details as requested at the bottom of that form. HSBC, so obviously looking at HSBC banking clients and trying to target them. Facebook, there are a plethora of different scams and so forth on Facebook. Be really wary of those. And unfortunately, this image is a little bit fuzzy, but it's a screenshot from a phishing campaign that was run in Italy and actually targeted or hit 10% of companies in Italy before being pulled down. I'm not going to translate it just in the sake of time, But what they had is they had this attachment, and they were asking people to click on that attachment to get additional information about how to protect themselves in the corona pandemic. And surprise, surprise, that attachment had malicious malware embedded in it. Another big thing to look out for is internal communications, or fake internal communication, should I say. I'm sure a lot of us would have seen this communication going out. This is a legitimate one. Sorry, if I can just ask everyone to please mute their microphones. So this is a legitimate communication, but how easy would it be for me to pick this up, see what's going on? I can then go to iTOO's website, see what's coming up at the next iTOOsdays. I could go and create an image which would look very similar, pop it out, but have a malicious link at the bottom saying, please click here to join Microsoft Teams, load a page which would look just like Teams, but ask you to confirm your username and password, and I could use that as a phishing campaign. So even your internal communications, which appear to come from the company, treat those with a bit of skepticism, because it is quite easy to spoof those and use them to target individuals. In fact, it's a great way to try and target individuals because it's already coming from a trusted source, so people are a lot more likely to click on those links. 7 tips to try and protect yourself. So use reputable sources for information. Use Google as opposed to links in email. So go and Google for the World Health Organization itself and go to their legitimate website to get some information, or whichever other sources of information you're using to get your insights. Check the email addresses and URL addresses thoroughly. Be very, very careful on those. And I do have a slide just a little bit later on where I'll show you how you can actually check to see whether or not you're looking at a spoofed email address. Avoid clicking on links in unsolicited emails and be very wary of email attachments. A lot of these are things which we should already be doing in our daily life. So it's really a case of let's be diligent about them now in the times of the pandemic when there is a lot of attacks going on, as we would normally be. Do not reveal any personal or financial information unnecessarily. So when you get to a form asking you for details, just take a second and think to yourself, why would they need this information? Does it seem legitimate? And if it doesn't seem right, maybe you should hold off. Avoid emails that insist you act now. That is generally quite a big telltale sign of a phishing or malicious type of email. They try and create a sense of urgency and panic to get you to act without actually having thought the whole thing through. So if it's trying to sort of insist you act now, take a step back, give it some thought before you actually act. Verify a channel's authenticity before making donations. Unfortunately, there are a lot of fake charities out there. It's great if you are donating, but rather do a little bit of investigation first and make sure that you are donating to a legitimate actual source and not being taken advantage of. And a big point there. So if in doubt, check with your IT department. I know IT departments are going to be very busy at the moment, but they would rather you check with them first as opposed to fall to some attack, which is going to lead to a lot of recovery work from them. I did mention that I had a slide just showing you how you can go about checking the mail headers in a mail. So this is actually from Microsoft sites. I'm not going to take the time to run us through in details. If you go and Google view message headers in Outlook on your desktop, you will go to the official Microsoft site. So you can see it says support.office.com at the top. And you can then go through and you'll see it's got the from address there showing you where the mail actually came from. There are a lot of instances where you get spoofed mail addresses. So in your normal mail, it looked like it's coming from, I actually saw one this morning, looks like it's coming from support@microoutlook.com. When you go in, you could actually see that it was a know before phishing campaign email. So this is a quick trick that you can use to double check the mail address yourself without bothering your IT team and just do your own quick verification. As I said, the steps are there on Microsoft's website for you to take a look at. I'm really inundating you guys with tips today, but I hope they are of value. So remote working for many of us would be quite new. I personally believe it's something that's going to become a lot more common as we head out of the pandemic. So some quick tips to think about when securing yourself for remote working. Number one is secure your Wi-Fi connection. There is a website where there is an article on our website I published about a week or two ago that'll take you through the steps to do that. It's It's quite scary, but you'll find that most routers that are installed at your home have a default username of admin and a default password of either password or admin. So important that you go in, set a secure password for your Wi-Fi connection, as well as a secure password for the admin connection to your actual router. As I said, article on our website that will guide you through doing that. Otherwise, Google it or make contact with us. We're happy to help however we can. Use secure passwords or even passphrases, and if possible, enable multi-factor authentication. So that's things like Google Authenticator and so forth that will send you a code that you use to authenticate in conjunction with your normal password. That does provide an added layer of security to you. Stay updated. This is always really, really key in looking after security. So when there are Microsoft patches and updates, or your antivirus is asking to do an update and things, allow these things to happen, do the reboots, etc. As I said a little earlier on, this is how the vendors you're providing with these security tools and solutions and operating systems are working to make sure that they are trying to keep ahead of the vulnerabilities and weaknesses which are identified in their solutions. Enable encryption. So a lot of laptops, you will have encryption enabled. Try and enable it for USB devices, etc. It just means that if your device is stolen out of your home or your car, or whatever the case is, people can't just gain access to that data. They've got to crack that encryption password in order to gain access to that information. So it builds in quite a lot of security for the devices which you are carrying around remotely. Access your work environment via secure connections. You'll probably find a lot of you are forced to do this by your IT teams. It does, while it is a bit of a pain to have to go through that additional authentication, it provides a lot of additional security, securing the communications between you and the company, and basically safeguarding your employer. Lock your screen and don't leave your devices unattended. Possibly not as relevant while we're at home, unless you've got clever little kids who might be jumping on your laptop and sending all sorts of emails around. But I've been in coffee shops before working remotely where you'll see people stand up to go to the bathroom, whatever, and not bother to lock their devices and not lock their laptops and things. That is incredibly dangerous. And you also run the risk of somebody just picking up that laptop and walking out the front door with it. So be wary of these sorts of things and safeguard your assets. I think to summarize pretty much all the tips and so forth I put forward is be vigilant. Think before you click. Don't panic. Don't be forced into a rush. Take the time to work through it and think about it. And if you do have any concerns or questions, rather ask. Be safe rather than sorry. As we head towards the end of the presentation, I think a big thing is don't panic. It's not all doom and gloom. As we said, we're already halfway through this lockdown period. Remote working, while it might have been daunting and scary up front, I'm sure a lot of us are a lot more accustomed and used to it now. And starting to see that it has a lot of potential benefits and may well form a part of our future working lives. If you have disclosed any sensitive information, such as a username or a password or something like that, don't freak out, don't panic. Let your IT department know, and where you use that information or that password on platforms, go and update and change those there as quickly as you can. As a final sort of parting shot, I know I use this one quite often, and it is one of Warwick's favorites. Treat your passwords like your underwear. Never share them with anyone, change them regularly, and keep them off your desk. I think that's probably really appropriate at work and at home. Thanks, guys. I think that is really what I want to talk to you about today. So I think in summarizing it, there is a lot of activity happening around Corona, a lot of phishing campaigns, malicious websites, etc. The onus is on us, unfortunately, to try and safeguard and protect ourselves. So be vigilant out there. Look at those links. Look at those mails. Be very sort of cautious and wary on clicking those things. And I'm sure we'll come out of this shining and with a lot of interesting things to consider in the way we work going forwards. Thank you. I don't know, Justin, do you want to jump on quick now just to say goodbye and things like that, or any comments while we wrap up? No, seems not. Guys, thank you so much for your time. It was great having your attention this morning. I hope I've imparted a bit of value and that you got something out of the session. As I mentioned up front, in order to qualify for your CPD points, please remember to post your name and surname on the chat list as we wrap up. And thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Have a great day further.
Thank you very, very much, Ryan. We seem to have lost Justin there.